I want to end this with all the things, or some of the things you could put against Leary. There are probably much more. He actually proposed, when he was politically active in the late 60s, a free market system. He was a radical libertarian in American terms, like a market radical, which I really don't like. And yeah, there has been, the term has been coined that he was for the survival of the highest. So he didn't actually reflect the social preconditions for having access to these substances and living in a secure scenario where they would have the desired effects. Because if you take these drugs under other social conditions, under the conditions that most people live in the world, they won't have these positive effects. Although he knew what these substances were capable of, he administered them to a lot of people around him without their consent, without their knowledge. And one of the persons he actively brainwashed was one of his wives, Joanna. He administered LSD to her for like months every day and tried to make her believe something about her life. I don't want to go into detail. This is one of the real crimes he committed. Another of his wives, Rosemary, was actually, due to his action in the legal system, on the run for about like 20 years and was only set free by Clinton in the 90s. So he didn't really care much about other people. That's one thing you can say. And so, consequently, he never accepted the responsibility for all the damage that had been done in the 60s by drugs. Partly he isn't responsible for it because he wasn't the only one advocating LSD. There were people who didn't come from the academic background who thought that everybody would just have to take it and then things would develop in the desired direction. This was not Leary's point. He actually knew what a good setting and a good set would be like, under what conditions you would have to take these drugs. But after 1966, after the drugs became illegal, he completely dropped this concept from his social praxis and started actually just advocating taking these drugs. And for himself, for his personal career, he started to use meta-programming, this sixth circuit, as an excuse. So whenever he had to change his position on something, he just said that he altered his state of consciousness. And I have just this one example for this. He was, for a couple of months, associated to communist revolutionary groups in the US and in Algeria. In those days he was still, or claimed to be solidaric with worker struggle in the world, for example to Brazilian Marxists. And at the point that he switched sides and lived on the fortune of a millionaire in Switzerland, he actually started making friends with the Brazilian rulers who used to jail these Marxists, these struggling workers. So Leary does not really have some kind of poster boy for any kind of social change. He should actually stick to the scientific models that he created and not try to follow the political or personal stance. Expand their horizon or to go beyond the current state, but rather just to adapt to the current situation, to being useful for the labor market or whatever, which is not giving rise to the idea of doing something else with these drugs. Yeah, so the question still is there if the world can become like a good trip one day, but that's something that calls for political action rather than just academic experiments. Yeah, and that's the talk from me. I thank for the